welcome to Studio 58A Live here at the Jamaica Information Service, our discussion program coming to you live on Facebook. I'm your host, Vaughn Davis. Thank you to everyone joining us online wherever you are around the world. Thank you so much for your eyes. We really do appreciate it. And as you watch, remember to send in your questions and your comments so we can put them to our guests. And like how we have the attention, do us a favor, man. Share this video with a friend or two or 40,000 so we can have a very lively discussion. Now, time is really the master. Now, once upon a time, we used to talk about mental health issues in hushed tones because we didn't want people to hear and judge us and think all kinds of different thoughts about us. Now we can talk about it a lot more openly, which is a great thing. However, ensuring that persons get the right treatment for the specific issues they are having, especially when that issue is very acute, is a whole another conversation. One which I would like to have, one which I would like to start today. That's why today's guest is from perhaps the best. Today's guest is from the best known facility in the island for treating persons with mental health challenges. We're talking of course about the Bellevue Hospital. Our guest is Nursing Administration Director at Bellevue, Mr. Devon Williams. Welcome, Mr. Williams. Thank you so much for being on our program today. All right, now, Mr. Williams, I'm going to start in a different, like, before we jump deeply into the conversation. There's just a myth I think I want to clarify. If it's true, let me know. If it's not, let's just clear it up right now. So I've heard it dozens of times that when persons go to Bellevue, there, if you bring them there, you might get some Milo in return. If this is true, is this a myth? And how did it even get started anyway?
Well, Mr. Mr. Davis, I've
Mhm.
heard that one too,
Yeah.
the Milo and stuff like that. But during my 40 odd years, I've never seen it.
No.
So I can't give an answer to that one.
Okay, so people, where does myth come from? How would you see Mr. Williams is telling us nothing like that? There's no free Milo given out for carrying people down to the Bellevue Hospital. I don't know how we got that in the first place. All right, anyway, let's begin at the beginning, Mr. Williams. Talk to me about Bellevue and its role. What are the specific functions, roles and functions that Bellevue plays in Jamaican society? What does it offer to persons who come there for treatment?
Well, Bellevue Hospital offers a lot to persons who are undergoing mental health issues, mental health challenges. From an external perspective, we provide we go to the schools. When the schools have their function, they will invite us to come in and do presentations. And I remember us some time ago going to the Ministry of Tourism to do a presentation on mental health and mental health issues. However, internally, we we play a key role in treatment and the rehabilitation of persons with mental health issues. And I'll just go to them briefly. Um, One, diagnosis and assessment, where the patient comes in, they are evaluated and assessed, and their mental health status is diagnosed accurately. Two, stabilization and crisis intervention. Um, Bellevue Hospital offers a safe and controlled environment for individuals experiencing acute psychiatric crisis or severe symptoms. Three, treatment planning and implementation. Bellevue Hospital developed individualized treatment plans based on the diagnosed mental health condition. And we also provide therapy and counseling, one on one interaction, small group, large group, to get the individual to help them develop their coping skills and to improve their problem solving abilities. And support for families. We have recently not recently, but some time ago we have started the Friends of Bellevue group where relatives of patients with mental health issues can come in and they can we promote effective communication and try to reduce the whole stigma concerning mental health issues and provide the necessary tools to support their loved ones and the recovery. So that's in a nutshell basically some of the things that Bellevue provide. And as I said some time ago, that Bellevue is the go-to place for all manner of mental health issues. Nowhere else in the island provides that.
All right, let me ask you this though: is there a particular threshold that level of seriousness that a patient would have to display before Bellevue will step in, or is it that if a person starts to feel different or a person feels like okay there may be a challenge or whatever the case is, it only a situation where Bellevue feels like they step in, or persons believe Bellevue steps in when the person seems to be demonstrating some acute psychological issue, or is it a situation where Bellevue can step in well before that to provide the kind of support the person needs?
Like how you use not the word acute um, word there, but
Yeah.
it depends on, I would say, socio-economical status.
Mm.
Um, if you have the funds and you can afford it, normally you wouldn't come to Bellevue.
Okay.
You would go to a place like you are Ward 21 or some other private intervention.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of Jamaicans are on the lower socioeconomic status. So in that eventuality, they would come to Bellevue. However, what we have in place is what we call the community mental health teams, and they are regionalized. For example, we have the Southeast region, which is Kingston and St. Andrew. And so we encourage persons that if you have persons displaying certain symptoms, then you'd go to the nearest clinic or hospital where you'd find these persons. And these persons, the community mental health team, will now go to your client or your patient or your relative, and they will take those persons, if warranted, to Bellevue Hospital. So Bellevue does not go out per se. Bellevue is an internal institution, but we have a community mental health team that answers the call of persons who are in need of mental health care. And they then go out, and if warranted, they bring them into Bellevue.
So okay, well,
I don't ever answer you properly,
no,
but
I understand. Well, all right, let me get more. You gave an answer that I can stick up in and come back to. I'm just talking about. So, for example, if a person is having, let's say it's more. Well, I don't like to rank because all things can really become problems. But
yeah.
let's say some issues are more manageable than others. So, for example, if a person is having and you just like a anxiety, like a panic attack or something like that, that's different from compared to if a person is having like a mental breakdown or something like that.
True.
Does Bellevue step in, or Bellevue focuses more on the persons having those mental breakdowns as compared to the persons who would be, for example, just having like a panic attack, who with like maybe like a couple of hours of just talking and that kind of thing can help to alleviate that person, as opposed to
All
like
right.
okay, we need to bring this person and put them in something like that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Bellevue does not normally focus on persons with things like anxiety disorders. I
Okay.
think that can be treated by most of the doctors around. But you have some major psychiatric illnesses. I'm going to name about three of them. One, schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a major psychiatric illness. And the prognosis, I might say, is not very good. Um, and that is something where you have to take a patient into to get psychiatric treatment. It is characterized by delusions,
Mm.
false fixed beliefs that not based on reality, hallucination where you start to hear things, see things, feel things crawl on your skin, um, social withdrawal and isolation. Those are some of the symptoms for the schizophrenic patient. And then you have the other one, bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder now has a better outcome. These persons usually get better and go back home. And bipolar meaning that there are two ends. One
Mm.
mania and the other depression. Right? And there is post-traumatic stress disorder. That is called PTSD. So these would be the major ones that come to Bellevue. In terms of schizophrenia, sometimes the person becomes paranoid, feel that person are trying to attack them, and they might become homicidal because they are defending themselves,
Mm.
right? And there, I forgot a really important one, depression.
Mm.
Depression is a major psychiatric disorder, and one that affects so many of us. Um, all of us go through depression, but it is expected that within a couple of weeks to a month you would come out of it. But if it continues 6 months going on, then you need psychiatric evaluation. And depression can lead to what they call suicidal ideation, where you're thinking about killing yourself, committing suicide, and so on. So these are the cases that would come in to our hospital for treatment.
Right. So you focus more on persons closer to the more acute end of the spectrum in terms of the mental health
Definitely,
challenges that they're going through. Something that's like where
definitely.
they are potentially a danger to themselves or other persons, are just, in a position where they're really, really like harm is possible or something like that, for lack of a
So
better
true.
phrase.
True.
All right. And you mentioned right before that about the community health team. And so I guess the question is, how do persons get in touch with the community health team if they feel like they have a relative or somebody who's starting to display certain signs and symptoms? Where do we go to get that kind of information to know who in the community is the first port of call before we get Bellevue involved in the whole situation?
All right. Thank you for that question. Uh, well, the relatives, friends, acquaintances, whoever, if you observe somebody with those kind of signs and symptoms, then you can visit the nearest clinic in your community or hospital and request to speak with the community mental health team. Or you can use your directory and look up for that number as well, and you can get assistance from the team. So as I said sometime earlier, that team would come with you to wherever you're having that individual who's undergoing mental health issues. They would assess and evaluate and then determine whether they can treat a person on the spot or whether or not that person needs to come into Bellevue or any other facilities for treatment.
All right, fantastic. All right, just to let persons know, persons tuning in on the live. So we're here talking with nursing administration director at Bellevue Hospital, and we're talking about providing support to persons with mental health challenges. If you have any questions, if there's anything you ever wondered about Bellevue Hospital, how they work, how they operate, how you can provide support, importantly, things like that. If you have any questions for anybody, or for Mr. Williams, now is the time. Jump in the comments, type in some questions so we can get a conversation going, and answer some of the questions, answer some of the maybe even bust some myths, things like that, so that we can get more information and get the right information circulating out there about the way Bellevue operates and how they can provide support to persons across the country who may be experiencing mental health challenges. All right, now we touched briefly on it a while ago, Mr. Williams. Signs and symptoms. Start talking to me about how we can start, because you mentioned schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and depression. Let's get into detail about some of the symptoms that can demonstrate that, okay, maybe it's time to reach out to a community health aide and see if we can have somebody talk to our relative, our friend, our loved one, and then take the next step, which may be having the person come down to Bellevue for some more intensive kind of support.
All right. In terms of depression, um, you might observe that the individual has persistent feelings of sadness, hopeless, loss of pleasure, interest in pleasure, in activities they once enjoyed. For example, the person used to like going to the beach.
Mm.
They shut up themselves in the house. They don't know why I go to the beach again. Changes in appetite. A man used to like eat food like me might stop eat.
Mm.
And
All
you
right.
understand me?
No,
So
yeah, yeah,
the
absolutely. You used to love eat
insomnia,
whatever and then just not eat again or anything like that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
yes, insomnia or excessive sleeping. Some people can't sleep, some can't sleep. So you have to observe the deviation in the behavior that it was before. If somebody who used to like sleep and not sleep now, something is wrong. Fatigue or lack of energy, and that is for the depressed person. Um, Difficulty concentration and making decisions, or remembering details about situation, thoughts of death or suicide. So this is the mental health issue where person think about killing themselves and taking their lives. Right? So if you observe these things in your relative or friends or acquaintances, you need urgent psychiatric evaluation. Then there's a bipolar disorder. They said it is bipolar is saying two poles, right? And these persons, you might find somebody getting elated, euphoric, or extremely irritable. Um, they don't want to sleep, and when they speak, you can't even hear what they're saying because they're speaking so rapidly. Their
Mm.
mind is racing. Um, Impulsivity, meaning that they do things on impulse. Engaging in high risk behaviors, right? And then there's a period now of depression, where, as I mentioned on the depressive symptoms earlier, about the thoughts of killing self and so on. So if you observe these things, you need to get this person to get some evaluation right away. Schizophrenia, the main two symptoms is delusions and hallucinations. And as I said earlier, delusions is a false belief not based on reality and not based on reason. So if a man say I'm a jaja, you
Mm.
can't tell him otherwise. That's his belief, right? Hallucinations. I heard of a gentleman who killed his mother because
Mm.
he thought she was a snake, right? And that has to do with seeing. So part of hallucination is seeing, and sometimes what you're seeing is not really there. Hearing, you hear voices in your head, feeling that things are on their skin, so you might see them scratching them skin and so on, right? So that is hallucination and the delusion, and how they speak, disorganized thinking and speech. So somebody might be talking to you about the football match between Argentina and Brazil, and then them switch to something totally different than about the salad in the fridge.
Mm.
So the thought process is mixed up and disorganized. I said earlier, this one, it can be treated too, but the prognosis is not as good. And these kind of patients tend to be in and out of hospital, in and out, right? So
You
that's
know,
basically.
right before we were talking, or before we officially went live with our interview, one of the things you had mentioned is that once upon a time, treatment has come a far, far way nowadays in terms of how we deal with
Yeah,
patients and we support them, how we provide care and so on. Talk to me about how
yeah.
the change and the transition and how. I want you to just put persons at ease that okay, if I bring my relative down to Bellevue, they're gonna get like the best care possible.
Sure. Um, yes, as I mentioned in the past, we used to have some situation where it was not conducive, and it's not just Bellevue. I
Mm-hmm.
think the whole mental health, the whole perception and care of mental health, patients with mental health issues has changed. For example, Bellevue did not have a what you call a patient services department. We have a patient services department. So if there's anything that you feel uncomfortable about, you can come in and speak with the patient services officer. The patient services officers will investigate and determine what was the basis of your complaint. So we have things in place to prevent um, any kind of abuse, whether it be verbal or physical. Uh, we we have the whole treatment has changed as well. For example, I spoke about sodium amytal earlier. That
Mm-hmm.
that injection that patients used to get, it is no longer in use. Patients get either oral or injectable. Injectable is usually given for like a month. So if you usually get this medication when you're discharged, and it keeps you for like a month or so. And after that month is ended, you take the patient back to the hospital or the clinic, wherever is closest to them in their community. Uh, there is a lot of advocates. There's a no nonsense approach by management and staff members can be dismissed instantaneously if it can be proven that there's any kind of abuse of a patient. Right? So we have a known and there's a zero tolerance approach to any form of abuse for patients. We think that a patient is any other human being, just like somebody with cancer in a hospital or some other illness in the general hospital, and they are in need of care. One of our therapists says, I think it's Virginia Anderson, theorist I should say, she said that the nurse provide what the patient lacks. So when you're in a hospital and you have an amputation, the nurse becomes your leg. When you're at Bellevue and having mental health situation, the nurse becomes your brain for you. So yes, we take the care, the respect, and the treatment of the patient regardless of
Whatever
whether he is
situation
rich or
they're
poor.
right. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Right, and you know that's the thing. So people want to know. I guess people probably also want to know, you know, what's the state of your facilities. I mean, if it is that my relative has to, or my loved one has to stay overnight, or maybe stay in there for a period of time, let's say a week, 2 week, whatever the duration, maybe. You know, am I gonna come there and feel like, okay, yeah, all right, cool, I feel comfortable in the surroundings that my loved one is gonna stay in.
Well, that's a nice one. We have been trying to beautify the facility over the many years. You know, in government institutions normally don't get the level of maintenance that they need, and so things run down. But I can tell you for Bellevue that we have been trying to improve. If you come to Bellevue any day right now, you will see a change in the road. For example, we didn't have a road. We had some stones and some potholes and stuff. We have a road now, so you know people can drive about safely. If you come to the ward to visit a relative, we have two visiting hours, 10, I think it's 10 and 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. And even if persons came after visiting or with some kind of explanation, you'll still be allowed to see your relatives. So I don't think anybody should worry about can I come in and see my relative? Sure you can. Can I stay with the relative? Sure you can. Yeah, that's basically it. You shouldn't have a problem with coming in to see your relative. And as I was saying earlier, things have changed so much. I can't mention some of the things on here because you might know, but I can't mention certain things on here. But I think in terms of the wards itself, the environment, the bedding and stuff like those, the meals. For example, in the past, we used to serve meals in some big, I don't know if you know those big pans that you would get on the ward and serve out the meal and so on. Not so anymore. Patient meals come to the ward packed in a large, one of those large, they call them you know when you go to a restaurant and you buy your food, you
Trays
get
and
a
things
nice
like that,
box.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
When the food comes to the wall, the patient's name on it, type of diet, and so on. So that's how it is now. No more big pan and big this and big that.
Right. You say we just.
So there's
I want to just stress that because fear is real in the sense that because it all has to go back to the stigma as well, associated with how society treats the persons who are experiencing these mental health challenges. And so one of the reasons many persons, I believe, maybe you can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, is that persons may feel like, okay, I'm afraid to go access treatment because I feel like I'm going to, it is like I'm gonna go through an experience that's really, rough and because the persons are them going to deal with me not like a real person, but like, just like this individual who mad or whatever, and so I'm not going to get treated well, and persons are afraid and apprehensive to go and seek treatment. And I'm just, in my opinion, I think that's what happens. So it's good to have you here to kind of dispel a lot of those myths and rumors and feelings like, okay, if I go and try and get treatment, I'm going to go through this dehumanizing experience. Is this so or not so?
No, it's not so. We have had patients, individuals coming in on their own. There are some persons know that they're getting sick and they have come in on their own and they have gotten treatment. Some have been admitted. There are some who have community relatives and they have gotten their treatment. And, we point out to the relatives on admission that, you're expected to come in and visit your relative regularly. And some have come in by the police. I have a few of them who are aggressive and violent
Mm-hmm.
and, chemical restraint, you know what I mean, administer medication to get them calm. And then they are sent to the wards for treatment as well. So I don't think, I don't, shouldn't say I don't think. I know there's no need to worry when you come here. Think of it like coming to KPH or any other normal hospital,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? There's no, these myths about so and so and so, rubbish.
All right, fantastic. I like that. All right, so let's talk about the stigma itself. Now, let's dispel the belief from, especially as you yourself has someone who has been in the system for so long and has seen all these changes,
Yeah.
seen everything evolve over the years. Let's address some of the stigma. Let's talk about the stigma and let's address some of the issues that you think persons need to move away from, and let's just put these ideas to rest when it comes to accessing treatment for mental health. What would you like persons to know first and foremost? Some of the things, I guess, that you want persons to know about mental health, accessing treatment, and why people need to just appreciate that this is just a normal, regular part of our life, and this is just something that we need to embrace.
All right. Let me just say that the whole thing about, and this is one of the reasons why the policy by the government is moving away from institutions like Bellevue to more community-based approach. Because, as I said earlier, when they come into Bellevue, it's a stigmatized, a madman that is in a
Mm,
Bellevue,
mm,
right? And also the issue of institutionalization. You come here, relative run down, they can't find them, so you become institutionalized for the rest of your life, right? So the government is moving away from that, the Ministry of Health is moving away from that to a more community-based approach. So if you get ill, treat you in a community, go to your nearest clinic, go to your nearest hospital, treatment, and come back to your yard. So nobody knows if you're a madman or whatever it is. So they're trying
mm,
to um, reduce the stigma. Uh, um, One of the things that we have been doing is the whole thing about education and awareness. And I mentioned it earlier that schools, organizations have called on us from time to time, and we have sent out our team members to do outreach programs to educate and so on. And that's a very important part in terms of reducing the whole stigma attached to the mentally ill. Um, so so we promote education about mental health by providing accurate information about the different mental health conditions, their relevance and impact. And we try to dispel any myths and misconceptions through public campaigns, workshops, and comments, as I said earlier. Um, we try to challenge the stereotypes, right? We encourage people to question and challenge stereotypes associated with mental health issues. And we try and highlight the fact that mental health conditions can affect anyone, regardless of age, gender, or socioeconomic status. The other thing we try to do is we try to promote respect and non-stigmatizing language. So the thing about a mad boy, a mad girl, should be a no-no.
mm,
Mr. Smith, Mary Jane, right? Um, we avoid derogatory terms and labels that perpetuate stereotypes. We emphasize the importance of using person first language that acknowledge the individual behind their diagnosis. Right? So as I said before, when I talk about the mad boy and a mad girl or this or that, we try to foster respect. Um, we also try to foster open conversation. We create safe spaces for open conversations about mental health. They can sit down and talk about it and understand it, without being fearful and so on. We encourage people to share their experience, struggles, and successes, and we provide opportunities for dialogue and listening without judgment. As I said earlier, we have a friend of the hospital group, and this is mainly relatives of persons with mental health issues. They come in and we have discussion, and we try to let them understand what is happening to their relatives.
All right, so a whole heap of work is going on, and so how do you personally feel about the way things are going in society now, and the move that we have seen? It's very clear now that there's a very obvious effort to make sure that we are more understanding as a society and just appreciate that mental health matters, and everybody goes through their own personal challenges, and so therefore, you can't look at the persons who are facing more acute problems and just judge them, because at the end of the day, it's just another element of our overall health. How do you feel about the way that the conversation is shifting nowadays?
Well, I think we are in a better place. I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you're around when uh, some business people downtown were complaining about the mad quote unquote people around the business places,
Mm-hmm.
and some big trucks came and just crippled everybody
Mm.
and carried them one place down a OAO and let them off. And there was a big outcry from the public. Never happened again.
Mm.
Uh, what we are seeing now is that groups, church groups, philanthropic groups have been feeding and trying to care for these persons. And I think we have moved on from that kind of mindset to one of care. We have not reached the pinnacle. We are still moving along that line. But I think we have been more positive. We have been more respectful in how we treat, in how we care for those who are mental health issues. Yes, more needs to be done. A lot more needs to be done. But I think we have the right mindset. And I mentioned earlier about the whole community-based approach, so that quote unquote madman living in a community, that big stone lick him down,
Mm.
or run him or something. You come to recognize Mr. Smith, you see the team coming every time they get an injection or something like that. So you know that, because the committee members know that these community mental health team, they're coming to give that with an injection, right? So people kind of more understand what is happening. And yes, more needs to be done, but Mr. Davis, I think we are in
We're in the right
the right,
place. We're
the
we're,
right
mo- we're
place.
moving in
Yeah.
the right direction.
Yes,
All right, I guess
definitely.
lastly, I like to bring things full circle, but I always believe repetition is the key to learning. So once again, if you if you know a person who may be having some mental health challenges, who may be displaying certain symptoms that you think, all right, I think I might need to make some kind of intervention on this person's behalf. What do I do? What's the best? What's the first thing I'm supposed? What do I need to know if I find myself in that position?
All right. Thanks again for that question. I mentioned earlier about the community mental health team. So for me, that's the first thing. So you go to the nearest hospital or clinic, and they speak to them about the situation, and they should come in and assist you with a relative. Or you can use the phone and call, right? Two, we know that there's Ward 21 at you as well. You can take the relative up there. That's a very small place, but that's another option. There are private facilities which some people cannot afford. I am thinking of like the group homes, even though they don't take acute persons per se, but there are many group homes in Jamaica that take care of the mentally challenged. Um, and of course, there's Bellevue Hospital,
Hmm.
right? Bellevue Hospital will not turn away anyone, whether you're from Westmoreland or just around the corner on Windward Road. We will provide that service for you, right? So those are the options that you have. But if you're in a community, every community has a hospital or a clinic somewhere. So you do take that patient to the clinic or the hospital in their community for the initial treatment.
I guess a question I have is, what would you do if is a situation where your loved one or whoever starts to exhibit kind of symptoms at night. You know what I mean? I mean, you might say take them to the hospital, but what if is a no situation? You find yourself that they're doing, or they might be doing something harmful at, I don't know, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. And so, I mean, it's kind of hard to say
Yes.
wait until the next morning. You know what I mean? It's a bit of a, how do you treat with that kind of
All right.
situation?
I am guessing that you might have relatives around
Mm-hmm.
who can help you restrain the patient, the individual who's having these issues. Um, the community mental health team works 24/7. The regular working hours is 8 to 4, but they can be called at any time. They can come out anytime you request them. So
Mm.
if you have their number, take up that phone, call the community mental health service. They should be there to assist you with your relative. What I know sometimes is that people in the and I say now we have really improved. First time people would beat up and also and so and so. But I think where community members have restrained the patient and assisted a relative in taking them to Bellevue without harming the mentally challenged person. But if that night thing is really something else, and as I said before, if you have relatives at home, they can assist, and the community mental team works 24/7, right?
Right,
So
and you
it's
can
been
reach to
good.
them through the hospital or through the clinics, or yeah, through the hospitals, especially because hospitals are obviously 24/7 as well.
Yeah. So what you would need, you need a number. You should have a number somewhere that in the event of any emergency, you can just pick up the phone and call
All
them,
right,
or use the cell phone.
so a bit of advice for persons that get the number of your nearest community mental health or community health aide who works at the out of the nearest hospital or clinic or
Right.
whatever the case may be, and see if you can, if it's, yeah, because if it gets real serious, the best case to do is just cast that person. Those persons know exactly what to do rather than kind of book shuffling and doing
Exactly.
something that you know not so right. All right, so final question from me: if persons want to reach out to Bellevue to get some sensitization, to have you guys come in and talk to them and get them to better understand how to treat with persons in their community or whatever, what you know, what do they need to do? How do they get in touch with you
All
guys?
right. The process is usually you write a letter to the director of nursing services, Devon Williams, Bellevue Hospital, 16 and a half Winward Road, and or you could write it to the CEO, Miss Suzette Buchanan, through the Director of Nursing Services, Devon Williams, 16 and a half Woodward Road, Kingston, and then outline what they want us to do for you, the date, the time, the where, and so on. And we'll organize a team, come out, and provide what you requested.
All right. So last things, just I want you to just let persons know what's going on about Bellevue. Let persons know why Bellevue is the best option to come and choose and come to. You know, should you find yourself in a situation where you need to provide some help to a loved one who's experiencing mental health challenges.
Well, Mr. Vaughn Davis, have so many final and last, but
You know,
let me just say that.
no, but that's the last one. This is the last,
Yeah,
last, last.
okay. But I must say that Bellevue is affordable. Um, Even if you never worked before, you can come in and get treatment here. The government taking care of its citizens. Bellevue is a free place to come and get the best treatment. Our staff members are motivated. Our doctors are of the expertise, and we are on a work of improvement. Right? If you come to the gate, you see where it starts, and it will go eventually go down to all the wards and so on. So come in, and we will provide whatever you need in regards to your relative. We have a patient services department that is like a monitoring department to ensure that you get the best care,
All
right?
right.
We have a no nonsense policy towards any form of abuse. And as I said earlier, you can be instantaneously dismissed if you're caught in anything like that. So I don't know if I give you enough reason to come
More
to
than enough.
Bellevue,
There's what
but
persons. It's just important that persons appreciate that
yeah,
Bellevue's there for them. You know what I mean? It's there and it's gonna do
yes,
the work. All
yes.
right. With that
And I
said,
say,
No, man, your last word to
Yeah,
you.
I say, Mr. Davis, stigmatization is one thing, but when your back is against the wall, Bellevue is there as a friend for you.
All right, there you
Right?
go. There you go. Couldn't say it better myself. All right, people. I hope you get that information digested. I think we've all grown up hearing about Bellevue and have so many things. The goal today was to just make the organization a lot more relatable to you, to make persons understand and appreciate the role Bellevue plays, and rather to just clear up the idea from what you actually practice and what you actually do. So it was good to have this conversation today to just bring some more understanding to the public and let them appreciate what it is, the value that you bring, and then the service that you provide.
Thanks for having me, sir.
All right, with that
Thanks for
said,
having me.
it's time for us to wrap. Thank you to everyone who tuned into our discussion, especially those of you watching all over the place. If you have a question and we didn't get to answer it, drop it in the comments. We'll go through afterwards and hopefully we can get you the right information. Now remember, our audience plays a major part in our show. If there's anyone in particular you'd like us to have in studio, let us know. Try to have that person in studio as soon as possible. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all social media places to see what we'll be doing and who will be in studio next. Mr. Williams, Bellevue up on social media, or we didn't really reach this way.
Yes, Bellevue is on social media.
All right.
I think you'll see our CEO on it as well.
All right, people. So jump on the socials, check out Bellevue, see the work that they're doing, and if you want to link with them, that's one of the best ways to do it. All right, we do this every week, live on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much. I've been your host, Vaughn Davis. This has been Studio 58A Live. Thank you for joining us. Please have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care and have a good one. You too, Mr. Williams.